Okay, boys and girls, welcome to Coffee Tea, you and me. We seem to be having a bit of a network malfunction, but we hope to get that back together real soon. As we continue our program today, I'm going to be doing some work here on my lovely computer as we figure all this good stuff out. I'm going to show in our broadcast a link to what we're going to talk about today. So here it is. This is today's educational moment. If I could spell, I would be dangerous. I should have queued this up before I started the broadcast, but you know, you live and you learn. If you go to our LinkedIn profile, you're going to see what we have here, which is today's educational moment. And today's topic is going to be super special because today we're talking about communication and how important communication is. And it's the next level of understanding. When it comes to communication, it's so important that you get it right. It's so important that leaders specifically, and it doesn't matter whether you're communicating to stakeholders, or you're communicating your referral sources, or your clients, or your prospects, you have to get communication right. Even if you're talking to your employees or your family members, if you don't get communication right, you're going to cause a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety, a lot of upset. And we're going to talk a lot about how you can avoid some of the typical traps that people find themselves in when they do not communicate effectively, when they use the wrong tools, the wrong strategies, and they just get it all wrong. And I hope you can take a look at the link that I've shared here, and you can take it apart, do whatever you want to do with it, share it. The exercises at the bottom of this article that I have posted here on LinkedIn are phenomenal. Use them as tools. I've used them on many occasions, and we're going to get right into our program after we take a quick little branding break. And so you'll know what we're talking about. I'm going to be right back, guys. All right, welcome back to Coffee Tea, you and me. This is the program that we've been doing now for almost 20 years. Now, having to say we've done this for 20 years, I haven't been broadcasting for 20 years. I have been coming online and broadcasting on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn now for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years since the pandemic started. Because before we were doing that, we were sitting down in a local coffee shop. Sometimes it was Jamie's General Bean right here in Centerville, and sometimes we migrated all the way to the Panera Bread. And we're probably going to go back to some kind of hybrid workshop, somewhere around December or the beginning of the year, because my friends at Panera Bread tell me they miss me over there, and I'm going to see if I can't get a nice quiet table over there around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and start to do this broadcast and do it live in the studio, basically in the coffee shop like we used to do before. That's why we call the program Coffee Tea, You and Me with Coach Powell, because we sit down and had coffee and tea and we just chatted about all the things that entrepreneurs and business leaders need to come together and learn how to do and do more effectively when it comes to all their strategies. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, you might realize that we are talking about communication today, but this is not the first time we're talking about communication. In fact, the Roundtable organization I support is all about communication, collaboration, and encouragement. And so our first series that we did earlier this year, early in the fall, was all about collaboration. And we spent maybe 5 or 6 episodes just talking about the various forms of collaboration, how to use collaboration more effectively. And then we went into encouragement, how you use encouragement to grow your organization in order to, make the tools and everything you want to have work more effectively. And today we're talking about communication. Now, we know that those previous two ideas, both communication and encouragement, do not work well if we can't communicate effectively. And it is imperative that we do so. If you can't communicate effectively, it's going to be very difficult to collaborate. It's going to be very difficult to encourage others. And both of those are extremely important when you're going to network effectively. And that's what I'm all about here at Coach Powell Training Development. We're all about teaching entrepreneurs and business leaders how to create, how to establish the communities, how to establish the relationships, how to establish the professional relationships they need to have to in order to leverage. In fact, we have a Leverage Up conference coming up this weekend, and tonight we're going to be talking to we got a VIP meet and greet to all the panelists that are going to be coming up in the conference, and I got to make sure I put that conference in the chat as we're talking. So let me make sure I get that up and running so that you guys, if you still want to purchase a ticket to the conference, you still can. It's not too late. All you got to do is go to Eventbrite and look up Coach Powell. You're going to be able to find it. In fact, I'm going to post it in the chat for you, so you can get a nice little link and you could come out to the conference anytime you want, and you'll be able to check it out. And if you want to attend one of these conferences in the future, feel free to stay in contact with us. Keep following us on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Give us thumbs up. Engage with us in any way that you can engage with us, and we are going to be more than happy to follow up with you, to communicate with you, and to stay plugged into you. This is the link to the conference. If you want that conference, if you want to get in there, you can get in there. We got a few seats available. Unfortunately, can't give you the discount anymore because that promotion has run out. It's run its course. But we are still promoting the conference. We're still using the conference, and we're still doing amazing things with it. So I really appreciate it. If for those of you all who want to jump on board, there we go. I got a lot of people texting me and stuff right now, so I apologize for my little diversion. But let's get back into it now. Okay. So first and foremost, what are the things you need to do to be more effective communicators? And what do you need to do to be a positive communicator? A positive communicator does something that's exceptionally well. If you look at the illustration that we have here, the positive communication person uses information, knowledge, and experience. All these things are specifically and appropriately connected to help others, and then help yourself and help others reach a level of satisfaction. This is what it's all about. If you want to be a happiness guide, which is today's topic, right? If you want to be a happiness guide, you're going to have to learn how to effectively use information, right? And transfer knowledge and deliver on the experiences that people need to experience in order to guide them towards some sort of satisfaction. It is critical that you learn all the tools, all the techniques, all the art forms, all the science behind it, the neuroscience behind it. You really have to get into this because communication is the basic form of human art. And I've said this before about communication. It's an art. It requires a level of emotional intelligence. It requires a level of connective tissue with other people, and there's so much more to it. We're going to get into a lot of that today. So let's talk about that. How do you become a more positive communicator? If you do it wrong, you're going to create a ton of tragedy. You don't want to make the kind of mistake that people make when they don't communicate effectively, when they don't get this right. And if you pay attention to what we're going to talk about today, we're going to give you some of the biggest tools, some of the biggest secrets, and probably some of the stuff that you never even heard before out of the new and latest research we're going to come out with today. All right. The best strategic opportunity for developing a positive communication environment. All those things are things that we're going to talk about today. I shared with you the illustration. When you look at the illustration in the article, there's going to be 4 boxes, right? You're going to see information, knowledge, experience. All of those things work in a linear form to create the environment that people need to have in order to be happy, in order to be satisfied, in order to be well adjusted, and just be at their best and make great things happen for you and your organization. But there's a couple of quotes that I want to share with you. One comes from the Bible, and one comes from, you're not going to believe this, one comes from Dostoevsky. Now, Dostoevsky says, much unhappiness has come into the world because of bewilderment and things left unsaid. Much unhappiness has come into the world because of bewilderment and things left unsaid. Let that sink in for a second. The next quote I want to give you comes from the Bible. Now, the reason why I chose this quote is not because, I am the biggest and best Christian. I'm a baby Christian. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. But people all over the world have identify with the sympathies that are in this next quote that I brought to you from the Bible. And we're going to use this as a tool to kind of begin to explore communication from a different point of view that maybe you've ever had a chance to explore from ever before. So hold on to your hats, sharpen your pencils, take your notes. Here's what the Bible says. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, 19 through 20, verses 19 through 20 says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. When I read that, it was like, poof, mind blown, because it made me think about what I do to myself, how I communicate to myself, how I eat, how I exercise, how I work out, how I do everything. If I am going to see myself as the temple, I'm going to see myself as a certain spiritual gift into the universe. And I have to recognize that if I have this spiritual gift, so do others. I'm going to ask you some significant questions, and I want you to think about that. Come back to that in the meantime. Let me read you a quick story. This is a story about one of my clients, and I have to say I've changed the names, and I've changed the locations, and I've changed the profession and everything to protect the innocent. So this is not us, and the names and all that kind of stuff have changed. It's a real client, but the information has been changed so that no one can identify anybody. And even if you work for the company, you probably won't be able to identify the situation, right? So this is very important, because I want to make sure I protect my clients, but I also want to make sure I give you guys a platform by which you can understand how certain information and certain learning can occur. All right. So Brad. My client Brad was basically a father of 12-year-old twins, Sarah and Connor, and the 17-year-old husband of wife Janelle. They live in a 4-bedroom single family home in McLean. And Brad is a successful graduate of George Mason University and is the CEO of his own engineering and consulting company in Tyson's Corner. You probably know somebody just like Brad. You probably know an architect or engineer or somebody who basically has that same scenario, basically that same kind of setup in their business. But here's Brad's problem. Right after Brad had an annual corporate meeting one time, he had basically 5 new contracts that he was so proud to announce to his entire team. He had an annual meeting, and he was basically coming back from a great, a year of tragedy and concern, and he wanted to say to everybody, we won this great contract, we're on the up and up, the business hasn't been around that long, but we're going to make sure that we're poised for a tremendous amount of success. And at that same moment, very much after that, he got a chance to sit down with his key executives, and only to realize that 3 of his key executives, they were getting ready to go. They were going to leave Brad. They were getting ready to duck out. They were getting ready to be on their own and do their own thing. And he was floored, automatically floored, because at least 2 of them had been with him since he started the company, and they were also with him when he was back in college. They were together in the engineering society. They worked in the same fraternities and sororities, blah blah blah. They were together, and all of a sudden they were going to leave him. And he this poor guy was floored, right? But this is a real problem for Brad, not just emotionally, but contractually. He's obligated. He was obligated to fulfill these 5 contracts, and these brand new contracts, multi-million-dollar contracts he just got underfoot, and he was, ready to rock and roll. The company's ready to rock and roll, and all of a sudden he gets this news that these people, everybody's bailing on him. Not only were they going to bail on him and quit, but they were going to then take the contracts and probably half the staff along with them. You can imagine poor Brad thinking that, I might have to go bankrupt. I might have to fire, at least half my staff. This is not going to work. This is going to be a tragedy. So obviously this is a problem. This is a problem that, a lot of organizations find themselves in, and the reason why they find themselves in this problem is very, very simple. Somebody in the organization, if not many people in the organization, have a toxic communication style. They are horrible at effectively delivering messages. I don't care whether it's email, whether it's communication, of any type. They're not good at what they do, and they cause a ton of problems. So let's go back to Dostoevsky for a second. Dostoevsky reminds us that when you miscommunicate, usually it's for out of a feeling of fear and overwhelm and incomprehension. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing. So either you communicate ineffectively, or worse yet, you don't communicate at all. And you cause a tremendous amount of chaos. You cause the kinds of problems that Brad was causing in his organization. I know many of you know people who are, you know, they don't even know how horrible they are at delivering messages, at just basic speaking to people, greeting people, saying hello, they don't even know how to give positive feedback. So everything they sound like always comes with a sting of criticism, or, you know, some type of negative comment comes just flying out of their mouth all the time, even if they don't mean to do it. And they call themselves being frank and honest, or they call themselves, you know, being a straight shooter. And that's all well and good. But the emotional cost, the social cost, cause exactly the things that are happening to Brad to happen. So I'm going to pose a couple questions for you. What would happen if you were intentionally determined to delight and show adoration for everyone that you got the chance to communicate with? What if you saw the opportunity to communicate with others as the opportunity to shower them with the love, the respect, the kindness, the dignity that was deserving of someone that you actually adored? Think about that. Let's go back to what I said to you earlier. If all of us are basically spiritual beings, and there is the universal, everlasting, kind spirit that exists in all of us, the spirit of not just creation and innovation and everlasting hope and change. You know, this is the spirit of love, kindness, support, development, all the things that we need to see and have in and from one another. It's all buried in each of us. And I sort of look at it like this. I think that every time I meet a new person, every time I meet a person, period, I'm looking for that indwelling. I'm looking for that special spirit that's in them. And so I don't stop until I find it. You saw that glow inside of them, and you were able to tap into it. Not only were you able to tap into it, you were able to show them that light and that glow through your communication strategy. First, through acquisition. Second, through exposing to them the beauty that you see in every person, in them. Think about how your stakeholders would receive you. Think about how your referral sources, your friends, your associates, people around you, your collaboration partners, how would they receive you if every time they saw you or heard from you, they felt supported, they felt loved, they felt appreciated. In fact, they felt adored for their specific gifts, the things that they could bring to the table. Now, this is very difficult, guys. This is not an easy thing. It's not easy to communicate with people on this level. And I will tell you, you know, it's not just a Christian thought process or theology that this comes from. This is global. This is worldwide. You know, people are wired to connect. We're wired to look at each other with special favor after we get over the fear thing. Because initially, usually there's some kind of fear factor. And unless we are intentional, and this is the point of this whole entire conversation, unless we are intentional about looking deep and finding something special within the people that we communicate with, people that we talk to, people that we share with, then it's going to be very, very difficult for us to consistently do it. And it is critically important. I don't care where you are, whether you're a leader or you're a partner or you're a player on an organization and a family and a team, no matter where you are in a position, if you learn how to do this, you got to practice it though. But if you learn how to do this, you're going to be great. You're going to get some of the biggest dividends. Now, from a Christian point of view, you're going to get the gifts of the Holy Spirit, right? And the gift of the Holy Spirit, and I want to make sure I'm careful as I communicate this stuff to you guys, because I don't want you to think that, oh, this is just some religious, mumbo jumbo that Marvin's talking about. Think about how universal this is. The gifts of the Holy Spirit, as is taught to most good Christians, are wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, piety, and fear of the Lord. That translates from St. Thomas Aquinas into 7 virtues. And these 7 virtues are what I want you to think about: charity, faith, prudence, courage, hope, and justice. Now, you guys don't have to write this down because it's all in the article. So go dig the article out, and then you can get everything from the article. But think about this: if you were able to communicate with the people that you communicate with all the time, and all you were thinking about is how can I look for and see those virtuous gifts in them? Where do I see charity in them? Where do I see faith in them? Where do I see prudence in them? Where do I see courage in them? Where do I see hope in them? Where do I see justice in them? How am I exposing myself? Those values how do I hold those values dear to myself, and how do I expose them to others that I communicate with? Think about that. If you want people to see you as a virtuous person, don't you have to use these or other attributes of love as you begin to share and connect with them? Don't you have to be charitable? Don't you have to show that you're charitable? Don't you have to communicate like a charitable person? Don't you have to communicate like a faithful person, a prudent person, a courageous person, a hopeful person, a person that believes and thinks about justice? Because if you do that, who could be against you? How can you logically say, if you're talking to someone from that frame of mind, how can they feel anything but happy, anything but supported? And that's one of the keys I want to share with you from today's topic, right? If you're going to be a happiness guide, if you're going to help others learn how to be happy, how to embrace happiness, how to enjoy, you got to think about your mindset as you communicate with them, but also your mindset as you receive communications from them. Because no matter what someone says, no matter how they say it, you may find that if you look hard enough, if you listen deep enough, if you try everything you can try to connect, you might find the charity in it. You might find the faith. You might find the courage that they have, even to tell you something maybe that you don't want to hear, or may not want to hear, but it required courage in them. They had to be courageous in order to share that with you, because maybe you have more power than them, or maybe it just took a lot for them to be honest with you. Recognize that. Recognize those virtues that you see when you're communicating and connecting with one another, because when you do that, you're allowing others to feel special about the gifts that they have, the talent that they have, the abilities that they have. And when they feel good about their gifts, their talents, then they feel comfortable around you. They feel supported by you. They feel like they can do anything, and they will do anything, because where else do they get that kind of attention? Where else do they find that kind of connection? I promise you, most places they don't. What they get in most places is feelings of upset, angry. They feel confused. They feel fear, blame, shame. Those are the things they feel from people that communicate to them, especially people who have power and authority, right? But if you have power and authority over any group of people or any people, don't use that as a bullying tool. Use that as a tool to show them these 7 ideas, these 7 principles, these 7 virtues of the universe. Now, thinking if you do that more consistently, you do that well, if you practice that every time you're going to communicate, ask yourself, how am I communicating through those virtues, those 7 virtues? What am I doing? And if you find yourself doing it well, you're going to see that people feel loved, they feel supported, they feel the kindness that comes out of you, they feel the attention, and everything that's going to work well. You're not going to have anywhere near as many enemies. There are going to be people who will come after you. They're going to come after you because, well, they don't believe you, that you're being authentic and all that kind of stuff. And you see that all the time. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, because and again, If you're a Christian, you're not just communicating to yourself, to somebody else, or to yourself. You're communicating to that spirit that deserves that kind of love, that kind of satisfaction, that kind of commitment. So think about every person. I try to think about every person and realize that there's a spiritual being walking in that person. There's a spiritual being that exists in that person. And that's who I'm trying to communicate with. That's who I'm trying to prove something to. That's who I'm trying to show that adoration, that respect, that love, that kindness. The person themselves, they're just the outside trapping. They're just a shell for the spirit that dwells within. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Hopefully you feel about it, because I have to remind myself sometimes, not to be so quick to respond or to reject or to think about people in any other way, shape, or form, because then I'm going to respond to them. I'm going to act with them in different ways than I want to. And it's not going to be respectful. It's not going to be something that I'm going to later on go back and appreciate that I said or did. So I want to make sure I keep that in mind. Now think about it. When you're a leader and you communicate from this point of view, you're going to have more opportunities to be solutions for people. You're going to have more opportunities to bring goodness to the table for your team and for other people. And they're going to feel supported. They're going to feel like their development is good. And you're not going to happen. What happened to Brad is not going to happen to you. But what happened to Brad didn't have to stay that way, and it didn't stay that way. Later on, what you'll find, and as you come down into the solutions that Brad had, Brad was able to call in my team. We were able to go and help solve the problem. In fact, when it's all resolved and all said and done, not only did Brad have new partners in his business, but he kept all those contracts. And all he had to do was really kind of relearn and rethink about how he was communicating, come clean with everybody, and let him know that he really did not know how to drive an effective message. He really did not know how to do this well, because that's not what he went to school for. He didn't go to school to learn how to communicate. He didn't go to school for emotional intelligence. He went to school to learn how to become an amazing engineer, and that's what he did. But think about that. Communication affects us all tremendously, and it's so important that we're able to transfer the knowledge, we're able to transfer experience, and we're able to gain and help each other gain the satisfaction needed to become great at whatever and whoever we are to become. And this is the story of Brad, and this is how it goes down. Now, a lot of you are going to ask a question like, well, how do I become better? Do I have to hire a coach to become better? No, you don't have to hire a coach to become better. You can start using the methods that I have and the exercises that I have here in the article. Very, very important. One of the things you have to learn how to do is how to receive information, how to get information, and how to articulate information in a meaningful, positive way. And so if you're out there and you are involved in the industry, if you're involved in any type of organization, there are things that you need to know. There's documents that you have to follow. There's principles, and there's morals, and there's a vision, mission statements, and all these things. You need to break those things down and find out how to make them a part of who you are and what you do, and how you articulate your involvement or connection to the group, to the team, to the organization. Because when you do that, people start to see a familiarity with you. They start to see that, you belong to them. You belong to the system. You belong to the operation, and they feel comfortable in that. The other thing you want to do is you want to learn how to pull the information out of others that's meaningful, significant, and relevant, so they can see themselves, and then turn around and give them back that information so they can see themselves as such. And they can see that you're noticing them. And they can see that you're noticing what they bring to the table, their gifts, their value, right? The True Voice system, and I have a link here, is right there in the article. All you got to do is pull it down. You can download it. You can copy it. You can print it out for yourself, and you can use it to expose what I like to call the voice of other people. That voice, sometimes they're not even aware of that voice. But if you ask the True Voice questions, it will help you to expose their voice. It will help you to write down those thoughts and go through all the exercises we have here in the article. I mean, their exercises are there. I've used them on several occasions to help you begin to think through, help you begin to internalize, and expose the communication errors that you may have been making in the past, but also the opportunities to be so much better at communicating effectively and being what I call the happiness guy, right? It's so important that leaders need to learn. This level of positive communication is not something that you're going to see, because if you did, we wouldn't see the record numbers of layoffs, record numbers of people quitting their jobs or being upset in their jobs, and all the reports are clear on this. It all boils down to effective communications from their leaders. And if you can have that, then you can have safety, you can have connection, you can drive mission, you can do all kinds of things. But it's the responsibility of everybody on the team to communicate effectively. All right, this is Coach Powell signing off. This is Coach Powell Training Development. I hope you guys had a good time. I know I did. I'm pretty sure this broadcast went pretty well. But if you have any questions, feel free to call me. Feel free to contact me. In fact, I didn't even put my banner up here. This is crazy. If you want to text me, if you want to call me, if you want to connect with me, use hashtag the 9-Step Guru anywhere, Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever that is, and make sure that you give me a call. My number is scrolling right across the screen here, so I'm hoping that you'll be able to see it and you'll be able to enjoy that. And if you need anything, if you need any help with creating opportunities for your business, I'm always looking for guest speakers. I went to this wonderful networking event last night that I think I'm going to be pulling a lot of visible guest speakers and stuff like that, because I like to bring people to the table that you don't often get a chance to see. So I hope you had a great time. I know I did. And you can follow me on all the places that were highlighted. Again, the article is in the connection, and if you want to come to the Leverage Up conference, again, that conference is advertised also in the connective tissue. Love to talk to you guys. Go ahead and check us out in the chat, and the chat will be open for as long as you want them to be open. So as long as they're up on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, you can follow us in the chat, communicate with us through the chat. We're gonna love having an opportunity to dialogue with you. Have a great day, guys. I'm signing off. It's Coach Powell Training Development. Welcome and goodbye. Coffee to you and me. Bye-bye.